Hello, this is Nightly News with Nancy. Thank you for joining us. I have some new content that I hope you guys enjoy. Today, we're going to talk about the family roles that we never even asked for growing up. So, I hope this is very insightful and that it helps you learn maybe a little bit about yourself, why you are the way you are today, why there are cycles and patterns in your life that are just destructive and your life is never working out, and why it never changes. So tonight, I want to talk about something heavier than usual chaos, something deeper than dating, something that's deeper than gender wars and society noises. I want to talk about the stuff that forms us before we even realize we've been shaped, the families we grew up in, the roles, yes, roles we were pushed into, and the cycles we inherited, the identity wounds we also spent our whole adulthood trying to heal. It's so aggravating, right? Because the truth is, most people didn't grow up in dysfunctional families. They grew up in survival systems. These were not homes built for love, just by the way. That's confusing now, probably for you, because love is not chaos. They were homes built for coping, because actually, they were homes built for coping, denial, and maintaining whatever illusion kept the family from falling apart. Does this sound familiar? And in these systems, every child gets assigned a role, not consciously, but not even with their consent, but through pressure, silence, trauma, and expectations. Okay, so one, there's a scapegoat, the one everybody blames, the lightning rod. It's the emotional trash can, the problem child, even when they're the only one telling the truth and speak it out loud. The scapegoat is the threat because also is the threat because they see everything, feel everything, and question everything. So they get hated on. They're the one who refuses to pretend. And a dysfunctional family hates nothing more than the truth. Secondly, there's the golden child, the one who gets praised, chosen, lifted, favored over the other siblings. But nobody tells them that being the golden child isn't a privilege, it's actually a trap, especially when you grow up. It's perfection with no permission to fail. It's being loved for performance, not for being human. And it's being the pedestal they eventually suffocate on. It's a lot. People forget this. Are forms of neglect. Both roles are forms of trauma, and both roles lead to adults who feel alone, even in a crowded room. If this sounds familiar to you, let me know which role you are in the comments. So let's talk about the scapegoat first, because if you're a scapegoat, you probably already know it. You've known it since childhood. That sense of being too much, too emotional, right? Too honest, too outspoken, too different. You become the family's like emotional punching bag, basically, but not knowing, not because you were the problem, because you saw the problem, the truth, because you wouldn't pretend everything's fine, because you refuse to swallow the family's collective denial. That's good. But here's the painful truth about scapegoats. They grow up emotionally mature way too early. You were the kid who could sense the tension before anyone even spoke. You were the one who saw through the lies, the hypocrisy, the favoritism. You were the one who carried the weight of secrets that you didn't ask to hold, but you had no choice. Scapegoats become adults who apologize for even existing. Usually, a lot of depression comes with that and anxiety. The nervous system always has a fight or flight mode on. Adults, well, also when they are scapegoats as children, overthink everything that they say, can end up with a lot of anxiety and paranoia from that too. And you don't know why. Adults who feel like they have to earn their right to take up space. It's pretty sad. Adults who struggle to trust anyone because the people who should have loved them unconditionally only love them on conditions that they could never meet. How could they meet something that they didn't believe was right? Now let's talk about if you're the scapegoat, comment that and let me know how you think of if you're the scapegoat and if you have any questions, because I'm actually a scapegoat. But let's talk about the golden child. There's also the golden child. If you're the golden child, comment below. Everyone thinks the golden child has it easy. I did too with my sister. They don't though. And I learned that later on in my adulthood once I started researching this stuff. They grow up being worshipped basically for their performance, and everything gets blamed on the scapegoat. Um, and they're the ones that can't do anything wrong. And It's because of their performance, not their personhood. So they have to be like perfectionists at everything. Their worth is conditional on being exceptional. And that's not love. Not at all. So they get a wrong definition of love growing up as well. That's pressure dressed as affection. So golden children become adults terrified of failure and adults who don't know who they are without achievement. Adults who crumble under expectations nobody realizes they're carrying. Adults who feel like imposters even when they're successful because they were never loved for their flaws at all, only their accomplishments. And in the middle of all this are lost children, the invisible ones, the peacekeepers, and the parentified children raising their own parents. All of these raise their own parents basically because it's emotionally immature parents with a lot of emotional trauma. The comedians distracted from the pain and the overachievers hiding the emptiness inside. The rebels screaming for attention like the scapegoats, right? The perfectionists or the golden child, even terrified of disappointing anyone. And probably as a scapegoat, you might even be like that as well, possibly. But how could you live up to any of these expectations, anyways? You're always going to be a failure to your parents, right? Because you're honest, you're doing the right thing. You won't live with their lies. And you speak the truth and you question everything because you know and you sense it's wrong. Possibly you're more of an empath. All these roles exist because the family system needed them to survive because their inner child's fragile. And here's the kicker: once the family system assigns your role, they expect you to keep it for life. Now, that's why breaking generational trauma feels like betrayal. That's why healing is lonely and it feels lonely. And it probably is lonely. You probably have to do it by yourself with some, guidance from others and a higher power, which I believe in Jesus Christ as our savior. And that's who I turn to. That's why setting boundaries, it feels like violence and being mean. That's why the truth feels like starting a war, or you're scared to tell the truth, or many things can come along with those things. But when you break the pattern, you break the equilibrium, that balance that your parents are trying to keep on that facade, and the family doesn't know how to function without your role. It's crazy, right? Psychologically, it's really crazy. You stop being the scapegoat, they panic, and you stop being the golden child, they guilt trip. You stop being the emotional caretaker, they accuse you of being selfish. And you stop playing weak, suddenly you're difficult. And you stop absorbing everyone's pain and you're cold. What the heck? How can you win? I mean, seriously. Families don't want you to heal, they want you to be predictable. They want the version of you that served that system that they made for you subconsciously, probably. And here's the hardest part, that when you grow up in emotional chaos, peace feels lonely. Peace can even feel boring. Healing, it feels like abandonment, and boundaries, they can feel like cruelty. And, silence can feel threatening, too quiet. Anxiety starts getting up, awkward silences that makes your anxiety bad. Love feels foreign, and you don't really know what it is because you never got it the correct way. You got some kind of love, but not exactly. It's toxic. It's totally wrong because you shouldn't have to be able to earn. You shouldn't have to earn love for your parents to love you or anyone to love you. You should be able to set boundaries, without somebody telling you you're wrong or guilt tripping you because of that. Respect also feels suspicious because you're not used to it, because your parents never even did that, because your nervous system was programmed to expect that pain. So you expect it again and again and again. And it's a cycle you have to work on when you're older. Therapy always helps. Trust me. There's a lot of therapy for that, which is good. That's why so many people, though, who break generational curses, though, feel isolated. You're doing the emotional excavation your parents avoided for decades. So you're doing the therapy your parents needed and breaking that generational trauma. You're parenting the inner child with the tenderness your caregivers never offered. And you're doing the work that should have been done generations ago. Generational trauma does not pass down like genetics, though. It passes down like silence and like shame. Like emotional inheritance nobody asked for, and the person who finally breaks the cycle always pays the highest emotional exhausting price, but it's worth it. They become the different one, the outsider, the black sheep, the one who's changed, and the one who thinks they're better than everybody, right? But the one the family doesn't understand. But here's the truth nobody tells you: the cycle breaker is not the outsider, they are the evolution. They are the shift and they are the healing, the entire bloodline that's been needed for years. You are special and you are amazingly perfect for doing that. Like, God has you here for a reason. But it is lonely, yes, because healing always comes with a cost. You lose people who you only knew you when you were unhealed, and you lose relationships built on your silence because you're standing up for yourself or setting boundaries and rules. And you lose the identity your family forced on you, and you have to build your identity that naturally comes with yourself. You lose the comfort of familiar pain, and you start building and learning what love is. It's not, dysfunction. It's not chaos. It's not lustful. It's not addicting. It's not excitingly, chaotic, or just chaotic that's stressful. But you gain something better. You gain yourself, and you break that generational trauma, and it almost feels like you're the martyr of the family, right? But you are not a victim. You are a survivor, a creator, and God has you here for a reason. And that's the truth tonight. I hope you guys enjoy the new content on the Nancy News Show, and I'll see you guys next time. Comment, subscribe below, and click on that like button, and I will see you guys next time. Later.